welcome everyone to another session of the Village Vitality series. My name is Aline, and I will be guiding you today through a sequence that is aimed at getting into the muscles of the hips and the shoulders. So these are major synovial joints in our bodies that tend to get pretty abused just by everyday wear and tear, but also by not strengthening the muscles around these joints properly. And if you think about it, all of our major movements, walking, anything that we do with our arms, come from these joints. So it's really important that we treat them well, that we strengthen the musculature around the joints, because that's going to help with stability and injury prevention, and that we stretch the muscles around the joints, because it's very important to maintain a balance of strength and flexibility within our joints. So too much flexibility means instability, can lead to injury. Too little flexibility can promote the same thing. So too really tight, maybe it doesn't lead to injury, but definitely movement inhibition and probably pain and discomfort. And then if we're too strong in the joints, too much stability, not enough mobility, then that can lead again to movement issues. So really important to find that balance, which hopefully we'll do within class today. What you'll need today: your chair, of course, your hand towel. So if you haven't worked with a towel yet in our classes, you're going to want to grab just a hand-sized towel. So nothing too big because it'll kind of get in your way. Nothing too small because then it won't be very helpful for you. I've actually been experimenting with where to set this throughout the class, and I have found recently that kind of letting it hang there is going to be easiest. That way I don't have to twist so far to grab it from the back of the chair, and it's totally out of my way for any of the movements that I'm doing. Barefoot is definitely recommended today. We'll be doing some foot range of motion work. And so it's really great to have those shoes off and work those muscles in the feet. Of course, if you have any health conditions where you, or orthopedic foot issues where you just should not be barefoot, then keep those shoes on and work your best through the movements with those shoes. Notice that my mat is set up lengthwise today. Highly recommend this if you do have a mat. And as long as your chair doesn't slide with only the front legs on the mat, it still should provide good traction and shouldn't allow your chair to move, but definitely be mindful of that throughout the class. If you don't have a mat, don't even worry about it. You don't need one. But if you have one, this is how we'll set it up today. So if you need to adjust that, go ahead and take your time to do that while I talk through getting us ready for centering. So today we'll be working with our Ujjayi Pranayama, Conqueror's Breath. Remember, this one is a really good balancing breath. So it brings a sense of balance to the body, balancing parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems, and also working to eliminate dust, phlegm, and other waste products from the lungs. So just an overall really great breathing technique to get us centered and in our practice today. Now, I will also be promoting you utilizing this breathing technique throughout the class. In fact, if it feels good to you and you don't feel any sense of unease, use the breathing technique the entire time. So a lot of yoga practices promote using this breathing technique throughout the entire practice, and there's really no, negative consequences from doing that, as long as you can maintain your breathing and you feel fine doing it. So let's come to our seated centering positioning. Remember, if you have any issues with the legs going numb, feet going numb, or just a lot of discomfort from that chair poking into right here under the glutes, then you might want to scoot a little further back. You can still practice rooting through the feet, lifting up, stacking the spine, even without being on the edge of your chair. But for a lot of people, it just allows the body to come more easily to that position. You can also scoot all the way back and use the support of the chair. That's going to work your body a little bit less, which is fine. If you do that, I really recommend trying to lean the upper body back as much as you can, just to keep the chest open so that you're not in this seated position, this kind of closed in, not very conducive to deep breathing. Also, we're trying to avoid this type of posture. We probably tend towards this in our everyday activities. And so trying to promote that open chest, lifted abdomen is where we're going. So decide how you'd like to sit today. Hopefully y'all have your mats set up by now. And wherever you do end up, you still want to work with squaring off the body in that good alignment. So the knees are the width of your hips. And if you're unsure, well, what's hip width? You can actually palpate or poke around for your hip bones and kind of work that line out to figure out how far apart your knees should be. And then from there, we want the heels and ankles underneath the knees. So we're mimicking here anatomical position, but just in a seated version. And this is where all of our joints are in more or less a neutral position, especially if we were standing in this position. So once you have settled down, try that rooting down through the feet, rooting down through the hips in order to help with that lift up. And you may want to just, especially if you notice you're rounding, you may want to roll those shoulders up, open that chest, roll those shoulders back and down, and kind of keep that very slight tuck or squeeze of the shoulder blades. We don't want to do anything extreme the whole time, but just that slight pinching there of that space between the shoulder blades. And if you notice, though, that the rib cage is poking forward, try to tuck that back in a little bit. We want the ribs over the hips, shoulders over the ribs, chest open, and then trying to get those ears on top of the shoulders. And you may notice you're leaning one side to the other, so maybe close your eyes here. You can even do a little side-to-side movements to just try to find center. And even those of you with spinal misalignments can try to straighten out as much as you can in this posture, just by working perhaps with the ribs. So maybe bringing hands to the rib cage, and if you notice one rib cage is maybe poking out, maybe you have some scoliosis in the spine, then you may want to work to try to press that rib cage to neutral. So that's another way you can kind of work to find as much balance as you can. And you're creating muscle memory. The more times you sit in this position, the longer you sit in this position, the more your body, muscles, nervous system remembers it. And it's easier to come back to this position without having to think so hard and work so hard. But it is an everyday practice, y'all. You have to keep working with it, or at least a 3 times a week practice. All right, so with eyes closed, try to find some release here in the effort of sitting with good posture, of sitting with spinal alignment, or as close as you can get to it. Remember, this practice is not about being perfect. This practice is about striving to really work with the body and maybe the limitations that you have, and trying to explore and understand your inner landscape, because from there we can grow and change. And so for our breathing technique today, we work with a throat um, restriction, or constriction rather. Kind of like when you go like you're fogging a mirror or glasses before you clean them. And so we can practice with mouth open to begin, just to get that motion down. So we're inhaling through the nostrils, exhaling. Engage those abdominals on the exhale, your deep transverse abdominis muscles, the girdle of the body. So important to our posture, our back health, our stability. We're working those muscles with these deep, prolonged exhales. So keep working with the mouth open for a few rounds. Now you can stay here, or if you can, try to work with that same exact sensation in the throat, but with the mouth closed. So now we'll breathe in and out through the nostrils. You may notice that your exhale will lengthen even more here, and that's because we can't get as much air out as quickly through the nostrils as we can through the open mouth. Deep engagement of those abdominal muscles on the exhale. And notice how the sound changes, sounding a little more like listening to the ocean from a shell. Remember, if at any point this breathing technique becomes overwhelming to you in any way, then release it and continue to practice here with your posture and just with deep breathing. And so those cues that we're looking for from the body may be something like excessive yawning, lightheadedness, or any other just strange, sudden sensations. Keep working with the posture. Keep lengthening through the spine, through the very tip of the head. And as you practice this technique on the exhale, try to release tension in the face. We are engaging the abdominals, but not much else on that exhale. Three to five more breath cycles. Excellent work this morning. After your next exhale, You'll release the breathing technique and just begin to resume normal inhales and exhales. Feel free to keep the eyes closed here. We'll move next through some shoulder circling. You can move both shoulders simultaneously or one at a time. If you're working one at a time, as one shoulder goes up, back, and down, the other shoulder goes down, forward, and up. And remember here, we're trying to isolate the movement just to the shoulder joints. So I'm trying not to move the back, the legs, the head, just the shoulders. And of course, the arms will move as well just because they're attached to the shoulders. So whether you're working one at a time, or it's really not one at a time, you're doing them both, but whether you're doing opposite shoulders or working the shoulders together, go ahead and switch directions of your circling. And remember, you're trying to get as much movement here as you can. So I'm working the biggest circle that I can in the shoulder, as long as it's not causing any sharpshooting, pinching sensations. So those of you with rotator cuff issues, just be careful, be mindful with this one, and really any of our shoulder work. So I often mention you want to work within pain-free range of motion, but some of you may be experiencing pain all the time. So maybe it's a baseline level of pain. Basically, you want to work to where you're not experiencing more pain or discomfort than your baseline. All right. Relax those shoulders. Let's bring those hands forward. We're going to work with a technique to both strengthen and stretch the chest as well as the back of the shoulders. So we're working fronts and backs of shoulders and really the tops of the shoulders just from having the arms lifted this whole time. So on your exhale, you're going to squeeze your palms together in front of the chest. So we're about shoulder height here. So squeezing, maybe that Ujjayi breathing. Inhaling to open. I'm not just passively opening here. I'm actually squeezing or pinching the shoulder blades together like I'm trying to squeeze a pencil between them and hold it there. Exhale to press the palms. Inhale to open, squeezing the shoulder blades. Try to keep those shoulders down, away from the ears. I know it's challenging because you're activating those shoulders, but try to keep pressing down. With that press down motion, you're going to be activating the lat muscles on your back. So more bang for your buck. Working more muscles with one single movement. I know those shoulders are probably getting tired. You may be experiencing some burning. Try to stick with it. That's your muscle telling you, yep, this is working. You're activating me, but try not to stop unless you have any sharpshooting or pinching pains. Oh yeah, work with that breath, y'all. So as the intensity increases in the physical body, we want to try to match the breath to that. One more. And relax those arms. Any decompression movements that might feel good to you, take them now. We'll be working with a sequence for spinal movements. So we'll be doing a version of cat and cow where we're adding a side bend in. So follow along with me. You're going to release the hands to the legs of the chair. On an exhale, you're going to side bend to the right, just tracing that hand down the right leg, trying to keep the chest stacked on top of the hips. So do not allow this to become a forward side bend. If that means that you're only dipping down 1 inch, that's where you're going. It's not worth sacrificing the forward bend to go deeper. That's not where we want to go with our vertebrae. We want to keep them just in that side bend. So exhaling down, inhale to come up. Exhale, forward bend. You can have the hands on the legs or on your own legs. So moving into cow. Inhaling up. Exhaling, side bend to that left side. Inhaling up. Exhale to send those arms back to grab your chair. Inhale for cow. And exhale to release. We'll do that 2 more times. So we want to inhale, exhale to side bend to the right. Keep pressing into that left foot. Inhale to come up. Exhale, cat. Inhale up. Exhale, side bend to the left. Press into that right foot. Inhale up. Exhale, find the bars of your chair or the sides of your chair. Inhale to back bend. Belly moves forward, chest moves forward, chin lifts. Exhale to release. Take another breath here. We'll do 1 more round. On your exhale, side bend to that right side. Maybe a little further this time if your body allows. Inhale to center. Exhale, rounding forward. Push that navel into the spine. Inhale up. Exhale to the left. Inhale, center. Exhale, send those hands back. And inhale, push forward. And exhale to release. Nice work. Hopefully feeling really warmed up in the shoulders and the back. So let's work now into the hips and legs. So grabbing your towel, you'll thread it underneath that right knee. Now don't worry if you don't have a towel or if you prefer not to use a towel. You can do this same exercise with the hands or fingers interlaced underneath that knee. And so you can do that circling with one or both hands, or use your towel. So threading it under, grabbing either side. We're just circling that knee, tracing as big of circles as we can. Just like we did with our shoulder movements, we want to try to isolate most of the movement to just the hip. So of course my arms are going to move because they're holding that leg, but I'm trying not to let my whole torso move into this. I want to isolate. A couple of reasons for that. One is we're working on our posture. And 2 is it works the hip joint a little bit more when we isolate. So go ahead and reverse directions. If holding onto the towel causes your fingers to cramp, you may want to try hands under the leg. It's a little less intense on the fingers. And release that foot down. Go ahead and set your towel off. You can even set it behind you on the chair, but we're going to use it again on the other leg. But first, some hip tap or toe taps. So bringing hands to the hips. Find that nice, tall, stacked alignment. Trying not to let the rib cage flare out. We want to keep this kind of sensation of the ribs coming together in the middle, abdominals engaged, back and over the hips. So I'm engaging here, just sitting. And I'm going to tap out as far as I can and come back. Out and back. This is working the hip flexor muscles, abdominals, muscles in the hip itself. So our what we call our external rotator muscles that are engaging to do this outward motion. And even the inner thighs a little bit to help bring that leg back in. So a lot of action here. Ujjayi breathing, if you would like. Next time you tap out, leave that foot where it is. Release the whole foot down. If you didn't quite make it to a 90-degree angle, go ahead and shift around in your chair to achieve as close to a 90-degree angle as you can with the legs. And we're going to bring that right elbow down to the right thigh. Chest is opening towards that front leg. So I'm trying to draw that left shoulder back. Ah, yes, nice side stretch here. Probably stretching a little into the inner thigh, maybe into the hip as well. If you can, inhale that left arm up towards the ceiling. And if you'd like to get into the shoulders a little bit more here, you have the option of doing a little bit of a shoulder opener, chest opener. So you, if you want to, will open that arm out and back behind you, and then just bring it back to neutral. Do that 2 more times, opening it out and neutral. You can keep your head looking forward, looking down, whatever feels best for your neck. And let's take an inhale to come up and exhale to release. Go ahead and bring that foot back in. Now drawing that knee in towards the chest. If you can, grabbing hold of the front of the shin. Now, as you draw the knee in, instead of, it's very tempting to round into this, I want you to lengthen navel towards thigh. So I'm drawing the knee in, but I'm also pushing the chest and belly forward. Depending on where you're tight, you might feel stretch in a lot of places here, in the hip, front of the hip, outside of the hip, in the back. Again, it just depends on how you're put together and where you're tighter, where you're a little more open. If you can here, grab hold with just the left hand, release that right hand, and just move into a little twist over towards the right side. That will hopefully draw the stretch into the glutes a little bit more and the outer hip. Ha ha ha. Sorry, that's a little sound I make when I am enjoying my stretching. Hopefully you're enjoying it too. Take one more deep inhale here. And on your exhale, release the twist. Release the foot. Straighten that leg out in front of you. Rooting down through the left foot. Feel free to lean back a little bit here. If you're getting real tired with the back and the posture, lean back. It's totally okay to do that. We're still in warm-up mode, so we're just going to point and flex. So working into the ankle and the foot a little bit more. Now, if you are leaning back, don't let yourself dump down. You're still remaining vigilant about your posture and keeping the chest open and keeping the shoulders down. Couple more, pointing and flexing. Really try to move through the toes too. So not just that ankle joint. Might feel some popping and crackling. That's totally normal. Next time you flex, keep it flexed just gently here. Come up and move forward into your hamstring stretch. So shifting forward, hamstring and low back here. Make sure you're not locking out that right knee. Might want to come down to the elbows here. Or if you're pretty flexible, maybe one hand to that right ankle, the other hand to the ground. But even here in our stretch, we're trying to maintain as much length in the spine as possible, especially if you have herniated discs or bulging discs, or it might be referred to as slipped discs, or you are prone to throwing your back out. You want to try to maintain a flat back. And so if that means you're not stretching this as much, that's the trade-off you'll make in order to just keep that spine healthy. Slowly come up on an inhale and slide that right foot in. And just note any differences between the right and the left side. Maybe you're feeling a lot of difference, maybe not so much. But again, as we tune in more and more, you'll start to notice these things. So let's even it out with hip circles on the left side. So either grabbing your towel or using your hands or your one hand, your left hand. You will circle that left knee out, down and around. Warming up that hip joint. So these warm-up movements are so important to really make our exercise more effective. So it's important from an injury prevention standpoint to get the joints ready and the muscles ready, but it's also been shown to make our exercise more effective. So when we establish that connection between the brain, nervous system, and the muscle, then we get more out of our exercise. So even, go ahead and reverse directions, even when you go to the gym, and I know you guys, your gym time is limited to only 30 minutes, so maybe you do a quick little warm-up in your home where you're just doing some joint range of motion similar to this, and the shoulders as well. And of course, walking will help be a good warm-up as well. But something to consider before you go do strength training or anything like that. All right, one more circle. And releasing back to center. Don't toss that towel off. We're going to use it again for our very last stretch of the class. So moving to our toe taps, hands to hips, just to help us remember, yes, we're staying active here. It's not just the leg working. So coming up to the toes of the left foot and lifting and tapping, lifting and tapping. Don't let yourself get frustrated if you don't have a whole lot of range of motion in the hips. If you think about changes being made in the body, changes are often gradual. We're not going to see differences overnight, although sometimes we do, and that's really neat. But a lot of times it takes at least weeks, maybe even months. And so patience is really important. And I know it's easy to say, hard to do. Whew. All right, you feeling that burn, y'all, in the hip. Oh, yeah. We're working. Next time you tap out, keep it there. Bring the foot down. Adjust your body if you need to here to try to get that 90-degree angle. And then move into your side stretch. So first, square off the chest, facing towards the front leg, and then you're moving down into your side bend. So elbow to the thigh. Maybe you just stay here and enjoy all the sensations that you're feeling. Or arm lifts. Maybe you stay there and enjoy the added sensation, especially stretching in that right side. Or if you'd like a little bit more and you want to work into the chest and shoulder, go ahead and open out any amount. And again, you don't have to look up if that tweaks the neck. And bring it back to neutral. 2 more times. Opening out. And neutral. Last one. On an inhale, come up. Exhale to release. And bring that foot back to center. Now drawing the knee into the chest. But remember, we're drawing the knee up and we're drawing the chest forward. So hands to the front of that shin or knee. And as I draw that knee in, I'm trying to open the chest forward. Belly forward. Just observing, what do you feel stretching here? If you don't feel much stretching at all, that's fine. It means you're pretty flexible in these areas and muscles that we're working. But hopefully when we move into the twist, you'll start to feel a little stretch. So now just the right hand holding the front of that shin. Release that left hand to the chair and draw yourself into just as deep of a twist as feels good to you. And if you draw that knee across the body a little bit more, you may feel that light up that outer hip and give it a good stretch. And take one more deep inhale here. And on your exhale, release the twist. Release the leg, straighten it out. Pointing and flexing now. Feel free to bring those hands back behind you and just kind of release back a little bit in your chair. But remember, we're staying active, we're staying engaged, we're keeping the shoulders down and working on that point and flex. So we're working the calf muscles here on the back of the lower leg. We're working tibialis anterior on the front when we flex and bring those toes up. Yes. So this type of movement, this dynamic movement, is both working on strength and endurance, really, of the muscle, as well as range of motion. So it's not a passive stretch, but we are stretching the muscle fibers while we're engaging them. So it's very effective. Try to work through those toes too. One more flex and point. And then just bringing that foot kind of to a neutral flex position for our hamstring stretch. So sitting up tall, lengthening the spine. Remember, especially if you have spine issues, you're trying to maintain a straight back. Oof, I just locked out that left knee. Make sure you're not locking. Keep a little bend there. And remember, if you have difficulty feeling the stretch in the back of that left leg, work on your pelvic tilt. So a lot of times we tend to tuck. So even as I fold forward here, I might have a tendency to tuck my tailbone under. My hip bones are kind of moving back. I really want to rock those hip bones forward. So you might even be able to see that in the video here of the difference in that low back. And our hamstrings attach to the base of our pelvis. And so when I try to push those sits bones back instead of letting them tuck under, it's actually stretching the hamstring muscle more. And it's just much better for your back too, to keep that neutral spinal alignment instead of flattening out that lumbar curve or the low back curve. We want to maintain that curve. It's a very important one. And it's one of our secondary curves, so it's easier to diminish as we age and basically just as we don't pay attention to our posture. All right, so hopefully I've distracted you through that stretch. You didn't even realize you were holding it for the full length of time. On an inhale, come up and start to draw that foot in. Reposition yourself just so that you are at the edge of your seat in seated mountain pose. We'll take a vinyasa and do some wide-legged postures here, semi-standing. So for our vinyasa, remember, you can inhale the arms up and exhale to fold forward with arms lifted. You can inhale the arms up, exhale to swan dive forward, or inhale the arms up, and as you exhale to fold forward, you trace the hands down the legs. So those are your options. Decide where you want to go today, and let's do it. So we're moving into that forward fold. Inhale the arms up, Exhale, keep as much length through the spine no matter which position you chose with the arms. Keep long, long, long. And then allow yourself to fold forward. So even those of you with spinal issues, unless you have been told not to round the back like ever throughout your day, this is still beneficial to lengthen the spaces between the vertebrae and traction out that back and to stretch the muscles along the back and the spine. So as long as you're not doing this all the time in your everyday posture, it's good to do it in your practice. Maybe rolling the shoulders, maybe moving the head and neck, just letting yourself release here. And remember, if you get vertigo or you've been told not to lower your head below the heart, then you're just going to stay in a slightly more upright position, maybe with the hands on the thighs or tops of the kind of right there near the knees. And you can still get benefit from this forward fold. So everyone now, take an inhale, start to lift to this position that I'm in. We're going to do 3 locust lifts and lowers. So sending those arms back, but trying to keep the chest down. I'm trying to move my spine into a back bend position. So I'm engaging the upper back to open the chest. On an inhale, coming all the way up. Arms back, engaging. Hands are squeezing towards each other. I might even kind of squeeze the chair. On your exhale, fold forward. Try to keep that length in the spine as long as you can. But then let the chest and abdomen rest on the thighs. Keep those arms active. Inhale to lift up. Do not lift at the back of the neck. Don't lift the head up like so. Keep all of that neutral and long. Lift up with the arms, with the back. Inhaling up through locust. And exhale, release the arms just for a second. Let's do that one more time. You guys can do it. Send those arms back, engage, squeeze. Exhale to fold forward. Keep the length in the spine as long as you can. Releasing down. Inhale to come up. Engage, activate, lengthen. Come on up. And exhale, relax. Good. Shake those arms out if you need to. We'll be coming to Warrior Two pose on the left side. So for this, I recommend positioning that left foot. Toes are angling perpendicular to your chair. And then sending that right foot out. So my ultimate goal, if possible, is to align that left heel as if it would intersect. So if I were drawing a line, it's going to hit right there at the middle of my arch of my right foot. Of course, I said this is ideal. Your body may not cooperate with this. Your positioning may look a little more like this. That's fine. Work with your body where it is today and know that you're going towards straightening this back leg and you're going towards this alignment. The most important thing to maintain is that this, on the left foot, the ankle is underneath the knee. So once you make it here to your version of Warrior Two, let's activate the arms. So I want to make sure I'm not leaning forward. This is very easy to do because we're trying to move that energy into that front leg. So I want to try to make sure I'm still squared over my hips. My chest is still opening forward, and I'm lifting those arms out to the sides. This is a shoulder workout, y'all, so do keep in mind if you have rotator cuff issues, you may want to do what we call cactus arms. So decreasing the length of that arm puts a little less strain on the shoulder. You may want to bring hands to the hips. So listen to your body. You want to push your limits, but not to the point of hurting yourself. So once you decide where you want to go with the arms, send that gaze towards the front arm, your left arm, whether it's up or not. If you would like to try here to lift, you may want to bring your hand to the chair, engage those legs, lift away from the chair. Maybe you keep the fingertips there to just keep your balance and keep yourself steady. Or maybe you come to the full version of Warrior Two for any amount of time, even if you just, oh my gosh, I lifted up and then I came straight back down. That's awesome. Work with where you're at. One more breath wherever you are. On an exhale, release. If you're standing, release. We're going to move into a pose called triangle or trikonasana. So for this one, everyone bring that left hand to the chair. Pushing your weight into that hand. See if you can lift the hips away and straighten that left leg. So your left hand is going to stay on the chair the whole time. Left leg is straight, but not locked. So make sure there's a little bend there. And if you can, you're sending that right arm straight up towards the ceiling. Chest is opening forward, so I almost want to feel like I'm pushing my right shoulder back and I'm pushing my left shoulder forward. A lot of sensations you're probably feeling here. Come down out of this pose whenever you need to, but if you can, we're going to hold it for 2 more breaths. Perhaps finding that Ujjayi, ocean exhale. One more inhale. And on your exhale, coming back to that Warrior Two positioning with the legs. Send that right hand to the right hip. Inhale that left arm up. And any amount of back bending you can, go for it here. So I'm still keeping the chest forward. So it's a little more of a side bend / back bend. It's a little combo. If you need to, you can bring that right hand to the chair. Breathing here. And on an inhale, lifting up. Exhale, relax it all. So release those legs. Come back to center. Any kind of decompressive movements, wiggling. So working to kind of release the tensions in the muscle. Very good work. We're going to do that on the other side now. And a little bit more locust work to strengthen the shoulders and back. So coming back to your seated mountain pose, back to your alignment, lifting up. We'll take that vinyasa forward fold. So we're going to inhale the arms up. Exhale, decide how you want to fold this time. It might not be the same as the first time. Just taking a breath or 2 in Uttanasana. Really more like 3 breaths or so. Relaxing here, enjoying the stretch. Get ready for a little more locust work. So drawing the hands to the tops of the thighs if they're not already there. Start to lift the back of the head, but don't lift the head up. Or we don't want to crane the neck. We want to lift from the back of the neck. So coming to that locust position, about a 45-degree angle, trying to press that belly forward, engaging these muscles in the low back and upper back. Send those arms back. This time we're going to hold here, but we're going to add a little squeezing or pulsing of the arms. So I'm going to try to push the palms as if I could like clap my hands behind me and then release. Squeeze and release. So this is really working the triceps, the backs of the arms, but also the upper back. Now, once we work to strengthen the upper back, So you keep doing it. Squeeze and release, squeeze and release. I'm going to talk for a second. Keep going. Don't stop. When we strengthen those upper back muscles, it helps with this posture. So on a daily basis, instead of automatically moving to this as our default posture, maybe this will start to become our default posture. All right, stick with it. Let's do 2 more squeezes. Ujjayi breathing if you need to. And come up. Relax. Shake those arms out. Maybe stretch the back of that shoulder a little bit on each side just for a little second or 2. Great job. Let's move to Warrior 2 on the right side. So opening that right leg out. So a lot of our movements in the beginning of class, we were setting up for being able to do this posture. So those toe taps, working to stretch the hamstrings, all the things that we've done are to lead up to this pose. So working to get those toes angled out, and then trying your best to get towards a straight leg on the back leg and creating that line. All right, trying to keep the chest open. I know it's strange. Your body's feeling a lot of things. But this is a wonderful pose for so many reasons. Arms out. Looking towards that right arm. So remember, if this is too much on the shoulders, try your cactus arms. If that's still too much, hands to hips. Strengthening, stretching. Lots of muscles in the body here, especially if you're using the arms. Take a couple more breaths here. Remember, if you want to try for it, maybe using the hand, test. Can you hold yourself here? Can you stand without losing the balance? And then you can move those arms into it. Take one more inhale wherever you are. On your exhale, release back to the chair, or if you're already in the chair, release the arms. We'll move into triangle next. So everyone bringing that right hand to the chair, pressing into that right hand in order to lift the hips and straighten that right leg without locking it. So notice the difference. This is straight. This is locked. Whew, it even looks painful probably. And it may not hurt you to lock your knee while you're doing it, but over time it really can damage the knee joint. So stay here or lift that arm. Maybe finding that Ujjayi Pranayama, especially if you find this pose very challenging, which you probably all are. It's not an easy one. We want to try to push that left shoulder back, right shoulder forward. If you're still hanging out here, awesome. Let's give it 2 more breaths. One more. Slowly start to come back down to the seat. Back to your Warrior 2 positioning. And just for a little reverse back bend here, or reverse warrior back bend. So left hand can come to the hip or to the chair. Right arm comes up. And you're moving into that back bend and side bend combo. So chest is remaining open. Breathing here. This might feel easy compared to the other stuff. Take an inhale to lift. And exhale to release. And relax it all now. So relaxing those legs, shaking it out. Coming back to the chair, we're going to come to standing now and just do a short sequence just to work a little bit more in the hips and work with balance. So either coming up however you need to or coming up through Utkatasana chair pose. So knees hip width apart. This time, we're sliding those feet back so that the toes are under the knees. Starting to hinge that weight forward. Starting to send those hands forward so that you feel like you could come to the feet. Lift those hips. Try to stay here a breath or two. Feel those quads working mostly, but also glutes, also core, also back, also shoulders. And inhale to come up. Exhale. Relax. All right. So we've made it to standing. Now, I recommend, if you can fairly easily move your chair, to actually move it forward. If it's a lot of work for you to get down and move the chair, then you do not need to do this on the mat. But I'm going to pick my chair up and bring it forward so that the back legs are still on the mat, but I have a good amount, or almost the whole width of the mat here behind the chair. We're going to work with goddess pose. Just in case you forgot, it's a wide-legged posture. Now, anytime we go into a wide-legged posture, we have to be very mindful of the knees. It's easier to strain them in this type of positioning, but on the flip side, this type of positioning is the most effective at strengthening the muscles around the knee joints, which will then protect the knee joints down the road and also help with just general, if you have knee pain, knee issues, that's not arthritis necessarily or anything like that, then this might be exactly what you need. But just be careful getting into this positioning. So we want to come to a width where our feet are wider than our shoulders. So a lot of times I like to cue what's called heel toeing. So I may start at a more neutral position and then send the heels out, send the toes out, send the heels out, send the toes out. This is just a way to move into it that will be less, I guess, the safest way to move into it. So once I get to that position, I do want my toes angled out, probably about 45 degrees. If you have a lot of hip mobility, you can even angle out more, but we want to be mindful that the knees are tracking in line with the toes. So for most of you, that'll be about 45 degrees. And here, hands to the chair, we're going to dip down, knees opening. So the tendency will be to do this. It's not the worst thing you could do, but it's going to strain that inner knee right in here. So we really need to recruit and activate our external rotator muscles, maybe even squeeze the butt as you come down to keep those knees opening out. And up. Let's just do a couple. Down and up. Keep checking out your knees. Now, once you feel like you've got the knees in a good place, and so if you feel like you're just not able to keep the knees from caving in, turn the toes a little bit more. Shorten the stance. Don't be so wide. Okay, so experiment with it a little bit. Once you feel like you're in a good, safe place, those quads are probably burning, let's come down, core engaged, lift that right heel, lift that left heel, and then come up. Take a breath. Let's do that a few more times. Come down, right heel, left heel. Wonderful for working ankle range of motion, working in the feet. Bend, right, left, smile. Fake it till you make it. Right, left, and up. One more. Down, right, left, and up. Good job, y'all. Heel toe it back in. Shake out those legs, maybe some slow butt kicks to stretch out the quads. So basically you're just trying, it's what it sounds like, you're trying to hit your butt with your heel. Although, if you can actually accomplish that, give me a call. I want to see it. All right. Now, if you have extreme balance issues for this next sequence, I want you to remain facing the chair, and I'll show you how to work with that. If balance is an issue for pretty much every human. But if you feel okay just holding on with one hand, you're going to get the most benefit out of this next sequence by doing that. So turning so that your left hand is on your chair. Come to the far edge of your mat if you're using a mat. If you're not using a mat, that's about a foot away from the chair. So, right hand to the hip, freeze everything in place. We're going to hinge just a little bit or lean just a little bit into that left hip, working with some hip abduction. So I'm just trying to lift that right leg straight out to the side. This is working my balance, strengthening both hips. And I'm trying to keep this as level as possible. Don't want to lean so that I protect my sacroiliac joints and just keep that good alignment. So your SI joints are on the right here where the sacrum connects to the pelvis. And the sacrum is kind of the base of your spine. So keep going. I'm just talking, anatomy talk. And those joints can get strained, especially in women. And just because of our hormones, because of childbirth, all sorts of great things that only we get to experience. All right. Relax for a second. Shift into the hips. Flush that lactic acid out a little bit, that burning sensation that you're probably feeling. We're going to move into a balance posture. So those of you facing the chair, hang tight for a second. I'm going to show folks sideways first, and then I'll show you how to work into this balance pose. So this is called half moon or Ardha Chandrasana. So we're going to lift that leg out. Now we're going to start to lower the shoulder down. See if we can lift that leg any amount higher. And then send that right arm up. If it's accessible to you, see if you can bring that left hand to the chair. Lift that right leg even higher, eventually moving so that the whole torso is parallel to the ground. You might be nowhere near there, and that's fine. So hang out here, test your balance, try to hold that pose as long as you can. For those of you facing the chair, what I would like for you to do is a one-legged balance posture. So you're just going to bring that heel behind you. Try to bring one arm up, maybe one arm at a time, or maybe both. But if you do both, don't move the hands too far from the chair, just so you can be able to grab it real quickly if you need to. All right, so those of you in your half moon, slowly start to come up. You can bring that right hand to the hip first. If you're worried about maybe you made your hand to the chair, yay, but now you're like, oh my gosh, how do I get up? Bring that right hand to the back of the chair, press straight down. That may help you come to neutral. Let's stretch those hips out a little bit. So pressing into that right hip first. Again, make sure this knee's a little bit bent. This knee's going to bend quite a lot. Oh, yes. So you should feel that stretch all in the hip. If you want to stretch the supporting leg, do that too, because that leg was probably working real hard, maybe burning even more than the other side. All right. Now you're basically just going to turn the other way. I'm going to move my chair, though, so that my back isn't facing you guys. We're going to do that on the left side with the right hip facing the chair now. So remember to come all the way to the edge of the mat if you're using it, or if you're not, about a foot, give or take, between your hip and the chair. Remember, for those of you with major balance efforts needed and not so sure about turning sideways, you're going to do this same thing facing the chair, so you can have both hands on the chair. But we're going to start with that hip abduction. So coming up nice and tall, opening that leg out and in. So using those hip muscles, engaging, squeezing to lift that leg. Again, you're trying to stay lifted. Core stays engaged. Shoulders stay down. Always. Pretty much the only time where I'll ever cue you to lift the shoulders is in shoulder rolls. That's it. 2 more. Let's just throw 1 more on there for good measure. And relax for a second. Maybe stretch those hips out a little bit. Get ready for your half moon balance. Or if you're facing the chair, your one-legged balance on the other side. So just drawing that leg up behind you. For those of you doing half moon, you'll start by lifting that leg, and then you'll start to lean, lifting the leg any amount more. So almost like you're counterbalancing with lowering the torso and lifting the leg. Maybe you stay here and lift that arm up. Maybe you want to bring that right hand to the chair, and so I recommend bringing the left hand down first. Placing that right hand. Maybe that left hand stays here for support. But if you can, lifting up and perhaps lowering to try to achieve that parallel. We can all have goals, can't we? Yes. Make sure you're still breathing here. Come out of it whenever you need to. But if you can, stick with it. 2 more breaths. Remember, if this right hand is in the chair, you may want to bring the left hand first to come up. And as you lift up, you're slowly lowering that left leg. Ah, you did it. Let's stretch that hip. So we're pushing over to that left side. Left leg is staying relatively straight. Right knee is bending. Oh. Yep. And switch it out. We're going to finish the class with a really super awesome hip stretch we haven't done in a while. Pigeon. Some of you may have just given me an eye roll there. Like, super great. What are you talking about? All right. So just coming back to your chair. You may want your towel for this one just to help you get into the position. So ideally, if at all possible, we'll start with right leg, drawing the knee in and crossing ankle over the opposite knee. Even just doing this, you may be like, yep, I see what she's talking about. I feel that stretch in the hip. Or you may hinge forward until you feel the stretch. You may need help getting that knee up. So perhaps grabbing under here and then maneuvering that leg up. If none of that is accessible to you, or if you make it here and it just doesn't feel right, it's beyond the discomfort of a stretch, then you're going to cross ankle, or at the ankle, knee opens out. You're going to do the same thing, and you should feel that stretch in the outer hip. It just won't be quite as intense. So decide where you want to go. If you're crossing up here, just make sure you're not letting the ankle press right into the top of that leg. That'll feel uncomfortable. So you're kind of pushing it over so the ankle is free. Never press into the knee. Whew, y'all. I need to do this one more. So as we hang out here and breathe and stretch, this stretch is perhaps one of the single most important stretches for your back and hip health. If you can commit to stretching for 2 minutes out of your day every day, do this stretch. Try to hold it about a minute on each side. Even 30 seconds on each side, you'll start to see benefit. So those folks that have just generic low back pain, sometimes this stretch can ease that discomfort. And when I say generic low back pain, I mean it hasn't been diagnosed. Like you don't have spinal stenosis, herniated disc, or whatever else may contribute to back pain. This is also great for sciatica. So if your sciatica is caused from nerve impingement, perhaps of the piriformis muscle, then this one is basically the stretch you need in your life. Even if you have sciatica caused by spinal stenosis, this can still help alleviate the discomfort from that. So let's slowly come up. Uncross. And just feel how that whole side feels like a big bowl of jelly. Super relaxed, super stretched. Let's give that love to the other side. So drawing that knee in, maybe using your towel, seeing if you can cross. Now, some of you may be significantly tighter on one side than the other. You may have to do the ankle cross on one side, even if on the other side you did crossing at the thigh. And that's okay. We want to try to work towards evening ourselves out, but sometimes it takes time. So remember, you can cross here or you can cross here. Either way, we're trying to let that knee open out to the side, and we're just hinging forward, trying to keep the spine long until you make involuntary noises. Yes. So trying to relax here. Remember, we actually can allow our body to stretch better by actually mindfully trying to release tension. So notice if you're tightening up in the upper body, if you feel like you're clenching here in the hips, just try to send the intention to release, to let go. I've seen some fascinating studies where, they hook your brain up and you just think about straightening your leg, and they see that the neurons in your leg muscles fire. They activate, even though you don't actually do anything to your leg. So there is that connection. We can send intention through the body. It's pretty neat. So send that intention of release, and it may actually manifest as actual release. One more breath. And very slowly come up. Uncross. And I probably don't have to tell you to find a relaxing position. You probably feel, hopefully, a little like, oh, I worked hard. I'm just ready to wind down. So remember your options of laying down, perhaps laying on your couch, reclining in your chair, moving to a more comfortable armchair. Wherever you end up going, you do just want to try to maintain that open torso and as much spinal alignment as you can. So just don't let yourself kind of collapse down wherever you end up going. So find your comfortable position for Shavasana. Any little last movements to just allow the body to relax. And we'll just stay here for a little while, letting the whole practice just sink into the body. So if you're in a chair like I am, you might like to just very loosely interlace the fingers so that just that slight cross will just help keep your arms in place without any muscle effort. Let your eyes close. Maybe taking a releasing breath or two where you inhale and exhale. And then allowing the breath to just do its thing without trying to control it. Just seeing how much you can release in both the physical body, with the breath, and with the mind. The main purpose of our physical practice of yoga is to prepare the body for a meditation, to allow this sense of stillness that you're hopefully experiencing right now. Feel the heaviness and weight of your relaxed body, the tongue releasing from the roof of the mouth, the teeth and possibly the lips parting. Your body sinking into the support of whatever is underneath it. Feeling this sense of fullness, your body full of ease, full of prana, this energetic force. And as you feel ready to come out of this relaxing state, know that you can stay here for as long as you would like. And if you want to stay here a little longer, then just ignore me as I move folks out of Shavasana. But if you are ready to come out, just start to draw back or bring back small movements, maybe just wiggling those big toes, wiggling all the toes, starting to move the fingers, squeezing the fingers together and spreading them out. Maybe starting to point and flex the feet, roll the ankles and the wrists. Just gradually making those movements a little bit bigger as you slowly wake up the body. And then maybe stretching those arms out long, legs out long, even if you're in the chair. especially if you're laying down. And when you're ready, blinking the eyes open and coming to a seated position. And let's draw the palms together in front of the heart, thumbs pressing into that heart space. Maybe tapping into the heartbeat. Drawing that chin down towards the fingers, just expressing gratitude towards yourself for deepening your practice today, towards any higher power or anyone else that you would like to just send this sense of gratitude and love and peace. And may this love and this beauty that is ever present within you shine out through every thought, every action, and every word. Namaste. And when we say namaste, we're basically just saying that this deep source of power, love, that's present within me, I recognize that it is present within you and everyone else. Thank you for sharing your practice today, for joining me for another session of the Village Vitality series. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, you know where to send them. My door is always open, maybe not literally because of COVID, but you can call me or email me. If you can't find my contact information on the hub, you can always call the front desk and get it. And I just hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day and that you join me next time. I'll see you later. Bye.